So let's get started today. So good morning, everyone. So before we begin, let's observe a few seconds of silence. Let's just close our eyes and just be present and be still within us, just for a few seconds. All right. So let's get started with the day. So what is the idea of what we're going to discuss today is it's about human being. So what I mean by human being is yesterday I mentioned that we will touch upon two parts. One is self-awareness and one is self-identity. When I said human being, the human part comes primarily from an identity which we created. It can be from our birth or over the period of time, how we created our identity, the self-identity, that's a human part of it. When I say being, that is pure part of awareness. So that is the core of us, which is always aware and awake, and that is a pure consciousness, which we are going to talk about. So to explain more about what is awareness, of continuing from yesterday, so let's talk about one quick story. It is the story about which is real, this one or that one. So this story is attributed to King Janaka. So the story goes like this. One day, the mid-afternoon, Janaka Maharaj or Janaka the king, so he was taking a nap for a brief time. During the nap, he had a dream. In the dream, it is he felt as if his entire kingdom is taken over by the enemy, and then he was casted away into the forest, where he was as a beggar. He's going, and then he was starving, so he becomes a beggar and goes ask for food from people, and nobody is giving him. And also when he saw somewhere they're distributing the food, he also want to go and collect the food, but that he doesn't have any vessel. So that way he goes through a lot of suffering in his dream. And in that moment, he just wakes up. The moment he wakes up, he's got confused now. So which is true? Is that am I a king? Is this part of me is true? Or the other part, which is the beggar? So he is confused. So which is real, this or that? And then he asks this question, and then he's it's kind of he's become so panic about it, and he asks all those ministers again and again, which is real, which is real. And there are a lot of people comes and gives their own perspective, and his guru Vashishta, who also comes there, and then he gives a perspective that you're neither, right? You're neither this nor that. Then he asks, then who is real? So this conversation goes on. It comes to a point where Janaka, he realizes that he is not either the king, or he's neither the king nor the beggar. So he is the one who's witnessing both these things. For that, his guru says that none of these things, you being a king or the like a beggar, can last forever. It is at one point in time, it is has to the identity of you. You have to let go of it. It can be the death as well. However, the true self is always been with you. So that is how the whole conversation goes. And Janaka says, I am nothing but a dispassionated witness. Or when he says that it is a separated witnessing self is the true self. So this example of the conversation of Janaka and his dreaming can be a little bit elaborated to understand what is actually the pure consciousness is. And for you and me, it can go like this. We know that what is a consciousness is me talking to you at this point in time with complete awareness and sensing all the reality around us. It can be the physical sensations, our emotions, thoughts, and we are fully aware and conscious in right now. And we also know that while we're sleeping, we get a dreams, right? So in dreams also, there is some part of reality that exists in which there is no limitation as we have in the reality and this present consciousness. But then there is another, the dreams we have little more freedom to explore life. And there is another place where we talk about a dreamless sleep, right? So I'm sure most of you would have also experienced that a night when you also think there is no dreams today, a kind of state. right? So now the whole question is, who are you actually? The one who's witnessing the present reality, or the one who is dreaming, or the one who is dreamless? That is a question to ask your own self. And there is a fourth consciousness comes in, and that is what they call it as Turiya or Turiya Tirtham or Turiyam. That is what they call the fourth state. The fourth state is witnessing state. So what they mean by witnessing state is a day when you wake up without any dreams, and you still say that, you know what, today there is no dream. So you are not completely aware, you are not awake, so you are definitely you're sleeping, and then you are not dreaming, you are also neither in or not in the uh, dreamless state, but something is observing all these three things. The one which knows you're sleeping, which knows that you're not awake, the one you knows which is sleeping, the one which knows that you're not dreaming, and the constant observer of all of you. So that is what we are talking about as a pure consciousness or awareness. Does that make sense to you? And that is what we are talking about as Turiya. And this state, the Turiya, the fourth state, this is what people also call it as Sach Chit Ananda or Sach Chit Anandam, right? So what does it mean is Sat, it is the essential, absolute truth, right? Sat and Chit is what people talk about as a consciousness or awareness. And Ananda is a state of being blissful, joyous, and happy. It's complete peace and stillness. So this is the fourth state of observing all these three places. So if that makes sense, you can just say yes, or we can go a little more deeper into understanding what it is. All right. So let's go ahead. Yeah. Is there anybody who wants to say something? Okay. So let's carry on with the session as such. So as I said, there's a fourth state, right? The one who's witnessing state. That is a state of being complete stillness, without any identification, without any kind of uh, relating and attaching to our thoughts, emotions, ego, nothing. It is a complete witnessing state. And that's what we are going to talk about as an awareness. And of course, people also talk about the further awareness, which they talk about cosmic awareness and united cosmic awareness, which is being oneness with everything in the cosmic being, right? So those are all at different levels, and we are not talking about it. For us, it is one simple thing that we need to know is the observing self is a true self. And whatever the observer observing, it is all a mind-made thing which we should be aware of. So that is where the concept of identity comes to us. With that being said, let's quickly touch upon one more thing, and here I just want to talk about voices, right? So I just quickly want to get some acknowledgement. How many of you heard voices or the noises in your head? Just if you can just thumbs up or raise hands or something that you can do with that. If you ever experience as if someone is sitting in your head and then talking to you all the time. All right. Yes. So the few of you, you know what I'm talking about. So there is always you being here, and then you also notice there is something, there is some thought which is randomly, and then it is goes on talking and talking and talking. It just creates noise within our head, right? So this I experienced very early in my life. When I'm talking about when I was literally a school going kid, I used to complain to my mother saying that, you know what, I am hearing all those voices in my head. I don't know what it is. And I was very afraid of it. There's someone is actually two people sitting inside my mind and then having a conversation endlessly. It is the noise, 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 noise all the time. And that point in time, my mother thought, okay, so there is something we should check. And then she took me to a psychiatrist and all those things. And people might have thought I was just making up all these things. However, now if I look back at that place, it is just me witnessing what is going on in my head. Literally my thoughts, that is what's happening in my head. I was noticing that at that moment. So that is what I'm talking about, the voices. And also When you're talking about voices, it can be like, as simple thing as like, when you're waking up this morning, one part of you says like, oh, it's better to sleep for some more minutes, right? The class is going to start at 7, there is another 10 more minutes to go, let me sleep. The other one tells you, no, you have to wake up, you have to get ready and then be ready for the class. So likewise, there are few things that goes on within our own self. And that being said, I always believe that me presently experiencing this reality, like, as I'm talking to you and everything, this is one part of me that is experiencing the life. And the other one is, which we know about, like, the voices in our head that is constantly talking. That is other self of us, like, which is constantly, that is in a sidetrack. It is kind of an automated, recorded message. It keeps on talking with our own identities and thoughts. And there is a third person who's the one who's witnessing both this reality as well as the thought, what is happening in our head. And that is what we are talking about as awareness. And I'm sure, like, it would have given you some kind of an idea what I'm talking about and what I'm saying or relating it as awareness. If you have any doubts, you can just take a moment to ask me here. And this is important, right? Because I don't want this to be a very abstract idea or some philosophical thought. It is an absolute truth, and which you can experience at this very moment. You can become an observer and notice. And the primary reason for meditation is for observing the thought. Become an observer, detached from all the sensation of your body, mind, emotion, senses, everything, and become an observer. And that is what we are talking about as a pure awareness. And from that place of awareness, automatically there comes a place of stillness. So if you have any questions, you can ask now before we move on to identities.
Karthik, I have uh, one question.
Yes, it is.
And that's with respect to, I think the the person that you have inside your head who tries to say different things, that person takes different forms.
Yes.
And okay, that's my interpretation. You can tell me whether it's aligned to what you're saying or not.
Mhm.
Since when you feel like your body is giving up on something,
Mhm.
but your mind keeps telling you to keep going for it,
True.
that person acts as a motivator, right,
Mhm.
in a certain
Mhm.
sense.
Mhm.
And in certain places, that person becomes the rational self in terms of, hey, why are you doing this? Why aren't you not
Mhm.
doing that?
True.
So it's more like, I wouldn't say contradictory thoughts, but this person is always trying to bring you some other perspective which is different from perhaps the way your body is feeling or what you want to achieve.
True.
Uh, right. Now, my question here is, there are times when you may have had certain bad experiences
Mhm.
and that may have triggered you in a certain manner,
True.
because which that person takes that form in terms of, hey, so this is what's going to happen.
Mhm.
Or you start overthinking about that, although you know whatever you're thinking is not how it's going to play in reality.
True.
So, considering the different form that a person takes,
Mhm.
and let's say that you're trying to just observe it,
Yes.
uh, I'm unable to understand how to interpret it. For instance, if it's motivation, it's great, right?
Mhm.
Because you're doing something which is conducive, you're doing something which you want to do.
True.
But at the same time, the negative thoughts that creep in,
Mhm.
where you have to even observe, it takes you in directions that you perhaps do not wish to go in.
True.
Uh, so I don't know how to evaluate or weigh that in. Uh,
All
yeah.
right. So yeah, our experience create these two persons, right? I mean, it can be like, the one who's motivating or the one who's demotivating. Someone who encourages you to, like, do this, it is the way to do. The other one is like, little more skeptic and then tries to tell you not to do it. So you're asking about the interpretation, right? So there you're actively trying again to engage in the identity part of it. You're just trying to say, okay, so these are the two guys and I want to engage with them. Correct? So when I say you are trying to engage us, it is instead of separating as an observer and don't have any judgment towards it, you wanted to interpret why he's thinking. And that comes from the place of identities which we created. And then we like, the identity is not just what we like, but it also what we completely don't like as well, right? So which we resist as well comes as a part of this. And these two guys, whatever they are talking about, are from that experience of how we attach to any idea or we disagree with an idea. Does that make sense, Siddharth? So if you interpret it, that also would have come from a past experience of yours, which making you like a little more cautious about things. And also by saying that, that is why they talk about the insight and intuition. Okay, little bit of, I'm just taking a side path here to illustrate this point. So there are two steps, right? One is insight, another one is intuition. The intuition is primarily from the past experience and the patterns of our own life, like what we observed it, and that creates a one kind of an intelligence by itself. And that tells us if you do this, possibly this is what the result that you may get. Or if you get, say, for an example, with an intuition, whenever you meet somebody, and if there are certain traits or like the behavior is certain way, we come to a conclusion that in the past I've experienced these traits, and then this is what it led to. So this is what I can expect. So rather, I would stay away from that. That is the part of intuition. Whereas the other side is insights. The insights is the one which we talk about as a aha moment, like when we it is there is no past reference to it. However, you must have spent some time thinking about it, then you will get an idea that, or you'll catch that thing, or say, oh yeah, now I get it. So this, you have to see it as coming away from the intuition and then staying with the insight might help you to understand where is that's coming from. Is it from your past patterns, or is it from some kind of a belief or the ego? Or when I say ego, it is some kind of an attachment that you are attached to. That is something to inquire about within.
Understood.
Right?
And perhaps this is something that we may touch upon later during the other sessions. Um, I'm unsure, but that's my hypothesis. Uh, but I feel that just being an observer to
Mm-hmm.
those thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and not interacting with them, at
Mm-hmm.
least for me right now,
Mm-hmm.
seems a little
Tough.
hard. Yeah, I mean, it's easier to engage because
Mm-hmm.
then you tend to do different things because you're interacting. Uh,
True.
but yeah, hopefully I do understand how not to engage and just let certain thoughts go by just being an observer.
Right. So I'll just quickly add to this point of yours. See, engaging in a conversation is also it's fine. All right. So even if whatever it says, just that if you are a little bit objective about it. When I say objective, if you question that very thought, okay, why do I feel this? Or from where this thought came? Why am I like, believing that if I mean whatever you're thinking, if I think this way, why this will happen in a negative way? So if you go a little more objective and have a conversation instead of supporting it and then feeding it with a lot of the other thing, which makes it bigger, instead you can also question it. And that is a beautiful place to be in. And in fact, the place that you're saying you are in, it is a beautiful place. The reason is you already know there is these two voices, and then you're also getting, I mean, actively engaging in a conversation. And now all you have to do is change the dialogue what you have within with that conversation. If you can change it a bit into little more questioning or a self inquiry, that may give you a different perspective altogether, Siddharth.
Got it, Karthik. Yeah,
Right,
thank
so
you.
that's what I say. And let's go on to the identities. And the more, like, tomorrow again we will be looking at attachments and expectations and ego self when it comes to identities. So there it will become a little more clearer in terms of where these kind of the mixed emotion, be good as well as bad, comes from. We'll go a little more deeper. And for now, like, let's quickly move on to the identities part of it. So the first thing I wanted to tell you is the identities itself is good, right? I first of all I have to say, because if I go a little more deeper into this, all you may feel is, what am I going to become some what do you say, a Buddha or a self-realized person, and then I'm going to give up all my materialistic things? No. So unless otherwise that you really want to become that, that is, you completely stay in the place of detached state of complete awareness. We also go through identities in our life, right? It can be as simple identity as I am good, I'm a good person, right? There is no harm in it. In that way, we act from a place of goodness, irrespective of the situation might be. So the identities are good. However, our attachment and expectation that we create out of those identities are the cause of the suffering. If that is clear, then it is fine, right? So, and this also, like, I wanted to talk about something called alter ego, right? People generally, especially the sports people and even the CEOs, they create alter egos as well. That is, when I say alter ego, they create a different identity for themselves during the time when they want to perform at their best, right? So it can be for an athlete. You must be like, seeing all those swimmers, like, Michael Phelps and everyone, like, they will be conditioning their mind, and they walk in certain way, they enter the swimming pool or the stadium in a certain way, and they perform in a certain way. And even some CEOs, like, when they are at their desk and they wanted to get into their thinking hat, probably they will wear a specs or something, or they do something else to create a different identity, which is empowering identities. So that way, the identities are really good. And then it is important from time to time from how we access it, right? So we can really create identities to perform at our best self. And that is what the self development side, if you go with, that's what people help you creating the positive and self assuring identities for our own self. And this conversation, what we are talking about is the inner stillness. It is to not get rid of identities, but be aware that what is causing a discomfort within us. That is our attachment, our expectation to those identities. And I'm sure, like, if you can get a little more clarity, uh, if you need any clarity, little more, then do let me know. I can just brief you on that. So with that being said, probably we can go a little more dive into why we need identities. So the identities are the place where we find the kind of a belonging, right? So we need anchor in our life. We need to refer ourselves as someone, right? I cannot say I'm nobody, right? Obviously, this body in front of you, I have this body, and then I'm doing some work, and there is some kind of a belonging. Even I need it, right? So that way, we all look for it's a place of belonging and place to be in. And it also gives us a safety thing, like, when I say safety and security, if I say I'm a certain person, people accept me. If I say I'm nobody, I belong to nowhere, where I become so alone, right? That's why we create our own identities to belong to some part of the people or some group of people, if that makes sense to you. So that is where the reason why we create identities. Though those identities are not absolutely true, however, we like to create to make ourselves feel belonged at one place. And that being said, let's understand what are the different forms of identities. So, see, as I yesterday we were talking about beliefs, ideas, and values, and you talk about, say, even this one, like, when you're talking about identity, we are talking about the other ones as well, right? The beliefs, values, ideas, and all these things. So to make it easy for us, let's all put together as a one form of how we are identifying ourselves. It can be through our moral way of looking life, or it can be the ideas that we define for ourselves. It can be anything. Let's summarize into one thing as identities. So how identities gets formed. So first of all, the moment, like, we when we born in this world, we generally born into a family, and who whatever the family situation is, we kind of inherit that function or that their values and identity automatically. It can be, say, for an example, language, right? I born and brought up in one specific family, and that family speaks certain language. I believe that that language is what it is, and sometime I may get attached to that language. And the place of birth, right? So, for an example, since I was born in Tamil Nadu, so I can say I'm a Tamilian, right? So that is a sense of belonging comes by birth. It is not because of my choice, right? It is my birth. I get that. And the family, and this also comes from a culture. A culture is another aspect that comes from, like, if I'm a Tamilian and if I'm a Hindu, there are certain process and ritual that I should do. That becomes my culture, and that's a way of being. And also you talk about further, you can break it down to say language, caste, and etc., which we acquire naturally by our birth. And then once we starts growing up, then it also comes to our appearance. When it talking about appearance, we also distinguish our appearance, whatever I feel. It is constantly changing, but then I get attached to my identity of my appearance, who I am. Say I'm a white person, I'm a black person, I'm a brown person, right? So it is all like, we create these identities as well. And then it comes moral values. We learn from life. We see that, our parents especially, like, they teach us different values to us. And also they create a lot of identities also to us. When I say identity, for in my example, for my son, right? So during his first birthday, we decided that let's celebrate each of his birthday with some kind of a superhero. So first birthday will be like, Superman. The next one will be of a Batman, or the other one will be of like, Captain America. So all these things. So what's happening is some form I'm conditioning my son to be like them, and then I'm keep saying that you are a superhero, right? So I'm forming a new identities to him unconsciously. I'm keep telling him with a different way. You are a good person. You are a wise man. You're a wise person. So those are a positive identities. Sometimes the parents also can create a negative identities for their kids. So that is where it belongs to in a two different states of how the identities are formed. And the other things are like, principles. The principles is honesty is the best policy. It's a kind of like, I'm a honest person. That can be my principle. And beliefs. The belief is kind of always a cause and effect. Like, if I do good, the good will come to me. If I do bad, the bad things will happen to me. And karma is happens to me all the time. So all these things are again goes into belief. Then there are other things is it can be political opinions, it can be even a gender-based identities or a sexuality-based identities, talents, even the habits, ideas, interests, how interest and possession. Like, if I have a car, I can just attach myself to the car and say this is mine, right? So every form of this creates an identity. So that being said, anything that questions our identity, we get little bit discomfort about it. So I'm sure, like, if you got the essence of what I referring to identity, then we can just go into the little exercise for today and find out what are the identities that we created for ourselves, right? So I will just run through the same list. So for an example, we are talking about appearance. So when I say appearance, how do you see yourself? Do you attach yourself to your appearance in any form? I'm a short person, I'm a tall person, I'm a fat guy, I'm a thin guy, I'm a muscular guy, or something like that. And likewise, like be it your nationality, your religion, your language, your place of birth, it can be any of these things. So you can mentally run towards ask yourself, is there anywhere that you're talking about, I am this, and this is what I belong to, and this is where I belong to? So do you have any kind of association or identities? We can run through it and then we can conclude for today. So the idea of this understanding is it is not to resolve any of those things, but just consciously aware of what are the different mental constructs that we create for ourselves, and then we become a prisoner to that mental construct. That's all is an objective. Because as we move forward, all we will be doing is being an observer, we will question each of this identity when it causes suffering to us, when it demotivates. Like Siddharth rightly said, the moment those identities comes and makes us feel bad, we will be more objective and more critical in questioning those thoughts. And by questioning, we dissolve them. So that is an idea that which we will be going forward with. So with that, if you have any questions about identities, if you want to understand more about what is identity, probably this is the time to ask so that we will clarify and create a understanding of identity. It's open now. Anybody? Okay, so if you got the idea of what is identity, just you can raise your hand and say yes. So that way I will know whether you have have a clarity in identity, or do you need more information about identity, or you want some other practice session or something to understand about this identity. All right.
Karthik if we can later on elaborate more on this, on identity and also on intuition and insight.
Okay. So you want, okay, probably like, I'll take it up to the Q&A part of it. Is that okay? So we
Yeah, yeah,
can
sure, sure,
discuss
sure.
that part of that. So see, the identity is any level of attachment. Simply put, if your mind says something which makes you believe that this is how things are, that's an identity that you form. Period. It said anything. It can be like, for an example, love. Like, when I just take idea of love, see, we have a lot of definitions also towards love, right? So we form a lot of ideas and definitions that love is this. Like, love is, if someone says, I love you morning, that means love. Or someone hugs me in the morning, that means they love me. Or like, if someone spends time with me, then only it's love. If not, it is not love. So these are all the definitions that we create and go deeper and deeper. And Ram, is it your rising hands for a question? Ram?
No, no, Karthik. It was the earlier thing you asked.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Sorry. So the raised hand, I just thought you want to ask the question for.
It's coming late. Yeah.
All right,
Sorry.
no problem. So identity can be anything, right? It can be like, the very thought which is there. And for our objective, it is not to completely run away from the identities, as I repeating again. The idea is, if there is any kind of a dialogue which causes us a pain, that we will inspect going forward without any attachment and expectation. That's what we are going to do. And let's give it like, a small exercise to understand what you think is an identity that you have. Just write it down. As I said, like, if you're ready with a paper and pen, just gently ask your own self, like, the first thing is with your appearance. Is there any part of you say, I am, and then you fill in the blanks, and this is, and what it is, right? Just try it out, and let's explore more about it. So, do you want to get started? If you have a paper and pen, start with your appearance, your physical body, your physical thing. What do you feel about it? You're a good looking person, you're a not good looking person, or you're someone. Just ask your own self. All we are going to do today is to come out with, say, 10 different identities, just to take a glimpse of how you're thinking about the identities and your beliefs, your values. We'll do a quick checkup on that, and then we will move forward. And the easier one can be like, your profession itself. I am so and so. Generally, how we introduce ourselves to somebody, a third person, what we do, right? I am a teacher. That is one of the things. Or I'm an IT professional. Or I am so and so. That is one of the identity. Or it can be like, the identity comes from our family. So when I say, I am a son, I am a father, I am a, like, brother. So all these things as well is an identity. So though we are not trying to get rid of these identities, absolutely not. It is just to be aware of what are these identities are. So as a family level, we can also write about, I am so and so. I'm a brother, I'm a father, I'm a son, all these things. And it can be of a place of birth. I'm a Tamilian, I'm a Kannadiga, I'm a Keralite, or I am somewhere else, like, from wherever you are, you can write that. That is what your belonging, your place of belonging, that comes from an identity. And the identity can come from religion. The religion is, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim. I am still, you are still holding on to that identity of yourself with a religion. So it can be any religion. You can, if you, whatever you feel comfortable, you can write. Then comes your language. With language, is there any identity that you have? Just ask yourself gently, like, is there any way that you relate yourself with the language and identify yourself with the language? Because all this thing, what we are talking about, identifying with a nationality or a region within the country or the language, we all know that this is a greater sense of, like, all the conflicts in the world that happens through these kind of smaller identities and attachment to it, right? If you get what I'm saying. So all these conflicts in the whole world also occurs from these smaller identities that we attach to, right? As an Indian, we would want to look against, like, Pakistanis. We completely see that they are different beings and I'm different, right? So these things we will explore more with terms of attachment and expectation later on. But for now, just play around with it, write whatever comes to your mind. And if you're politically oriented, and then, like, if you have any stands in the political stance, maybe that also is one of the identity. I support so and so political party and I support this. I belong to one. You can write that as well if it makes sense to you. And also, the identity can come from your belief system. The belief system is, I'm a good person. If I do good, people will behave good to me. Or it can be anything, like, I'm a family man, or like punctuality and dedication, hard work. All these things are, like, some of the values also we can get attached to. So if someone, like, if I'm attached to, I'm a, what do you say, I'm a person, like, with utmost honesty. If someone accuses me that I'm not being honest, there is some part of me gets affected by someone saying that I'm dishonest. So that way I lose my mind. Like, that makes me go through suffering. So think of all these things and have your own list of things that you're identifying. And don't worry, this is just a first exercise that we are just getting started with identity. And it doesn't matter after all. Like, the moment you understand about it, you will start questioning. Then it doesn't matter what identity you keep. You will keep what it is empowering you and helping you, and you dissolve what is causing you the suffering. So that we will go into it tomorrow. So with that, I just like to hear from few of you to understand whether you're, like, what you're written as an identity. It is how it is, how you've written. I just like to see that or hear from you. If you're open, please take a moment to just share what you've written, if you're comfortable with it. Yes.
Karthik, I just want to share something,
Please.
not about what I wrote, but I just realized
Mhm.
it's so difficult to uh, talk about yourself once you have removed all those criteria. Like,
True.
I mean, I mean, then what's the purpose of your identity if it's not for those few facts that we either inherit or we acquire?
Mhm.
So, like, how do you associate yourself with something that perhaps is also comes from a neutral space, but at the same time it's yours?
True.
If no, I'm just like, that's a question.
It was a
I'm not
question.
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. Uh, like, how to categorize myself if not for whatever I acquired or I inherited.
Mhm. So here's the thing, Sucharita. So it is a good place to be in. Again, as I'm saying, what the reason why I'm saying it's a good place to be in is there are only two things. Either you're completely still not clear of the identities that you formed and then you yet to uncover it, or you may not have the identities itself. You're not able to attach yourself with something. So to give you that point, like, I had this experience, like, some time ago. It is something like this. Like, I was I just created Insta account, and then I'm just trying to explore, like, what it is. I'm pretty much a newbie in Insta. And I'm just trying to write my, the profile introduction. So I'm just trying to write. So there is obviously top of my mind that comes as, okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I am a founder of so and so. And there are a lot of things like, I've just started thinking. But then, like, some part of me didn't feel that that is true. I'm here to express about myself. And I'm not even, I was hesitant to talk myself about, say, a spiritual person or something like that. That also I felt I'm not attached to it at that moment. Even now, I don't feel attached to a lot of things. So that way, it is a conflicting or confused state to be in, because you're not clear about what exactly is an identity, and then that also take away who you are. A major part of who you are. You are becomes an unexplainable being. So that is a tough place. And also, that also gives you a freedom to choose what you want, right? So if you are in that place, you can also consciously choose what you want or who you want to be. So that helps you to work towards your other aspects of life, not just a spiritual quest and etc. But if you're looking at a different aspect of your profession, your life, and etc., you can form new identities as well. That is completely okay. And as I said, it is not about creating identities or removing identities. The only challenge is getting attached to identities. Yes, Siddharth.
I would just like to add to what what you just said right now,
Mm-hmm.
and with reference to what Sucharita had also mentioned in terms of how most of the identities that you associate with, you either acquire them or inherit them.
Yes.
I feel I feel that's, I wouldn't say it's problematic, but
Good
at the
point.
same time, it just restricts us in a certain manner, right? And where I'm coming from is the reason why you inherit or why you acquire it is because that's exactly how the society thinks of it,
You're right.
and that's a societal construct that you're living in,
True.
which may or may not be conducive to the kind of person that you are. Let's take a very simple example over here. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about genders, you or sexuality for that matter of fact,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
society tells you that you're either a boy or you're a girl.
True.
It works in binary, right? But at the same time, perhaps you do know individuals who are
Mm-hmm.
asexual, or they fall in that spectrum of being, bisexual, so on and so forth.
True. True.
If you're going by just what you've acquired or inherited, you would invalidate the way the other person is feeling simply because your idea of identity is restricted to this or that and
Yes.
not the spectrum in between.
Yes.
So I feel most of the times, more often than not, at least in my experience,
Mm-hmm.
societal construct, it boxes you in a certain manner. For some people, it's perhaps a sexuality. For someone else, it's something else. And those are small battles that you as an individual fight with yourself because you feel that you're cornered because something that you are is being invalidated by someone else simply because they haven't seen it the way you have seen it.
Right.
Uh, and that awareness in itself makes you, I think, a more confident individual because that gives you more clarity about yourself and the plurality of experiences that others have, which you just cannot invalidate, similar to how you wouldn't like anyone else to invalidate your experiences and how you feel. Just wanted to add that.
No, this is beautifully put, Siddharth. Thank you so much for sharing this. What you said, it is so much like, it brings a lot of context to what we are talking about today. The people or the society wants to put us in a box. They wanted to tell us this is who you are. So make an identity. Tell us who you are. If we want to, like, say I'm 10 things, then the people want to call us as you're a confused person. You don't know where you belong only. Right? So they want to put us in a one small box and then say, if you do this, you're fine. Or else you're lost your way. You're a hopeless being. So that's how people, like, tell us and put us in a box. So that is what we are trying to examine here and try to come out of it. So I think Tanaji wanted to share something. Please, Tanaji,
Uh, I'm going to share what I have written.
please.
Okay. Uh, I am a good person and a better teacher. I always like my profession. I am Maharashtrian
Mm-hmm.
and I always like to happy I always like to be happy and make others happy also.
Perfect.
Marathi is my mother tongue. I can understand and express myself better in Marathi than any other language.
True.
I'm always in search of new and amazing things, especially very eager to know about the universe.
Mhm.
I'm not much interested in materialistic things, but don't hate them also. I believe that all the living beings in this universe are basically attached to one another and always work in a harmony,
True.
like the cells in our body. That means every person, every living being is like a cell in a body, and the body is that universe.
True, the man.
And basically, we all are one, and everyone is working for everyone. This is my thought.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing, Tanaji. So, as you rightly said, all we're just trying to create is a different aspect of us and then trying to experience the world. That way it becomes clear. But then, as I'm repeating again, the identities itself is not bad. They are fine. They gives us a path. They gives us a kind of anchoring to who we are. At the same time, if it causes suffering, that means we have to examine and let go. So that is the only thing that I wanted to tell you at this moment. With that being said, probably we will conclude for today, maybe with a quick 2 minutes, as far as silence. If that's okay with you, just close your eyes, just spend few minutes to reflect, what we discussed about the awareness when you're talking about the pure awareness as well as identity. Just reflect this thought. Let's be here for 2 minutes in this space. Just close your eyes, just observe your breath and notice what we discussed about awareness and identity. Just to take a deep breath and relax yourself into the being. You can gently bring your awareness back to the place and you can open your eyes when you're comfortable. I hope everyone is back. Thank you so much, everyone. And Kushal, you have a question. And so now we will continue with the Q&A. If any of you want to leave, please feel free to leave. And if you want to stay back, you're welcome to stay back as well. Yes, Kushal, please.
Well, Karthik, okay, well, I just want to understand what are we getting from this activity? I have written down my identity.
Yes.
So what? So what is the next?
Okay, the next step is what we are going to discuss tomorrow. But then since you asked, I will quickly just tell you what it is. So whatever you have written right now, you can go through it. At this moment, you can just go through it and just challenge this. Just give me one of those identities, what you have written, right? Just tell me one thing.
Okay, I say that I'm a good-looking person who looks very younger than my actual age.
Yeah, that is so good, right? Huh?
Yeah.
So if someone comes and tells you like, you look old, huh? Who told you that, you're a good looking person? You look bad or you're not good looking. How will you feel?
Yeah. Feel like thrashing him.
Thrashing him? Exactly. So that is what we are talking about, Kushal. So the idea of this identity is you feeling you're a good looking person, it is for yourself. But why is that getting affected when someone else pointing out and say that it's contradicting your point of view? So that is what Siddharth also was trying to point out is the difference indifference, like we see it in the others as well, right? So the moment we accept ourselves completely and fully, and also we'll accept the other person, we won't challenge them, we'll fight with them, or our inner state doesn't get disturbed. So as you said, you want to thrash someone, that emotion is what we are going to examine. Why you want to thrash someone when someone says you're not good looking,
Okay.
right? So because just imagine, it is just somebody's opinion, but this is your identity, which is true. What he's saying is true or what you thinking is true.
So it's more like you accept what the other person says and just move on instead of just thinking about it.
It is, yes, you do that, but for do that, you have to examine why I'm feeling unhappy. I mean, how, see, your appearance, it is your person, right? You are right now. How that can get affected when someone else, even if I tell you, like, you are not, say, anger, is that changes anything in this whole world?
No, nothing.
Nothing. And then why you have to react to that particular thing? So that is where we lose our inner stillness or composure, and then we go outwards to fight against that. So rather, how you can be aware of it and stay out of it. So that way we don't lose our inner composure or stillness. So that is how we are going to go towards stillness. Does it make sense?
Okay. Yeah, got it. Okay.
Right? So the reason for coming up with this identity is to self-reflect. What will cause if someone opposes all your identities, whatever you might written? So you are an entrepreneur. If someone says that you're a worst entrepreneur, that will affect you.
Yeah.
Yes. So these are all the causes of suffering because you're attached to that specific thing.
I mean, anything that hurts our ego will actually kind of,
Yes.
disturb us, basically.
Yes. So that is why we are going to go a little deeper in terms of understanding, attachment, expectation. The attachment is how much we are attached to that specific identity so that anything that comes against it, we don't want to give up on it. At the same time, the expectation is from that identity, we want to validate the whole world. Just because our identity is this, we invalidate everyone else, right?
Yeah.
So that is where the expectation comes from. This can be very minimal to even the day-to-day relationship within the family members, right? Our identity, we can try to impose on them. The moment our expectation is not met, then there is a problem. And obviously, we'll discuss more about ego as well. Ego's role in terms of all these things.
Okay.
All right, Kushal?
Got it.
Yeah. So anyone else, if you have any questions, you may ask. And Sucha, so do you want to ask anything, Sucha? Sucharita. Sorry.
I'm just I'm really thinking on this because I think this, in terms of thoughts, this would be a new topic to me, and I'd see what is to come ahead of this, because right now I don't have a thought on this. I couldn't even write, that's the reason I asked you, because somehow I don't think it's enough to identify myself with my geography, or where I was born, or with my profession. Somehow to me that's not enough. uh, you know it's not enough weight for me. So and it's a very tough question, I've always felt. And like you said, yes, creating the bio too, I think any social media account also becomes a task, because you're also trying to, at least there, you're also trying to kind of uh, self promote.
Yeah.
So you are trying to say something, because it's a short one, right? So you
Mhm.
want to say something that would just hook the reader
Yeah.
there. So for sure that's not my true identity. I can write that in 4 or 5 different ways and it could still be alluring, but that need not be me. That probably is not
True.
me, or how I feel
True.
deep inside. So I think this is something I'll also look towards more,
And I
to
can tell you,
understand the
Sucharita,
person.
so the place you are in, it can be absolutely a good place to be in. You're not attached to any of those identities as well. So that also means that we give you your own self of who you are. It gives you the whole world to you in terms of to create, as well as to stay away from that if you decide to, right? So getting attached is what the problem is. Like, whenever we say, I am this body, I am this emotion, I am this thought, that causes suffering.
But Karthik, also, like, in this time and age and in this world, when I step out and from probably a spiritual or a philosophical aspect, it's a good thought
Mm-hmm.
to perhaps to not have an identity, so to say. But if I do not also have that, then I don't, it's not. How do I put myself across to someone,
Exactly.
right?
True. You're so right, Sucharita. So that's what I said. Having an identity itself is not bad. We need identities, right? Even if I'm saying I'm a teacher, people just ask me, like, what teacher are you? I cannot say I don't have any identity. I cannot attach myself to it. At one point in time, we have to take something. Just that we do those, create those identity consciously instead of what is given to us or what we acquired over a period of time. That is the only thing that we are trying to do. And also be aware of is that identity causing us a pain. Just being aware of it is the only thing we are doing. It is not about the identity at all. In fact, the identity can empower us, it can hold us. If we can create it, and you can create any identity that you want, that can be a separate activity which we can do. All right. So with this, we will conclude this for today. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you tomorrow with attachment and ego, expectation. These are the three things we will be discussing tomorrow, and we will see where it leads us. Thank you so much.